Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you from Germany. Today is Saturday, the 26th of January 2019, and I am so glad that you're joining me today to talk about some knitting. This is about the 10th time I'm recording this intro because I skipped a week and therefore I don't remember how to podcast anymore. Also, this morning was quite tough because I woke up, it's about 10 a.m. right now, and there was no breakfast. And by no breakfast, I mean there's no food resembling breakfast in the house. So I was like, okay, I'll just do my podcast instead and have a large cup of coffee. I do have coffee, but there's no milk. So that's kind of sad. So then I thought I would podcast anyways, and it turns out without coffee and anything like that, it's just, or with coffee but nothing else, it's just been very sad and I can't focus and yeah, my life is sad like that. So what did I do? I found some chocolate, had some chocolate for breakfast, which was amazing, and I'm feeling much better now. My voice is still a little bit croaky, but apparently chocolate has been found to help tremendously with coughing, so maybe the magic of chocolate will help with my throat as well. Anyways, welcome to this knitting podcast. If you're a new viewer, welcome to Crazy Town. I hope that you'll enjoy this. And if you're coming back, if you're maybe even a subscriber, thank you so much for being there every week or whenever I get my butt in gear and actually record. And I really hope that all of you enjoy this podcast. Today I will talk about finished objects, works in progress, and yeah, well, there shouldn't really be any acquisitions, should there? Because I was kind of planning on not buying yarn. You guys, that yarn diet, that just went out the window and traveled very far away across the entire planet over to the moon and never looked back. So instead of no acquisitions, there is a ton of yarn and prize donations and knitting podcast related things piling up here, which is amazing, and I don't feel bad about it at all. So there will be a big section of that in case you want to watch that. And then I will just waffle on about what's been happening, because there's been a lot of stuff happening here in my part of the world. So there you go. So where should we start? We should start with knit-alongs. We have a group on Ravelry called the Happy Knit-along. No, we don't. We have we have a group on Ravelry called the Happy Knitting Podcast. I will link it underneath this video as always, and that is where you can find all the knit-alongs. So at the moment we are running 2 knit-alongs. We are running the Happy Sweater Along, which ends in the end of January, so very, very soon. So get your entries in. You can enter in the chatter thread, the FO thread. We have another prize, which I will show you later. And then we still have the Happy Handspun Along, which sadly there is not that much participation. I assume it's just because there are not that many spinners out there and there are not that many people who maybe have bought handspun yarn, so I totally understand that. But in case you are a spinner, in case you do want to work up some handspun, please check out the thread and join in. That would be really fun. In terms of what I'm talking about today, I don't do show notes, but I try to do relatively good project pages. So again, you should find everything there. If it isn't, give me a day to update it, and then of course you can always get in touch if you don't find your answer. So let's jump in with some finished objects because I have a ton of them. It's been 2 weeks since I last recorded. Last weekend was just too busy and it just didn't work out. So I have some FOs, some of which you haven't even seen as whips. But should we start with the elephant in the room? I think we should. So what I'm wearing, of course, is my sweater, which is a finished object, thankfully. This is a pattern by Leni Hoy, who is a Finnish designer. She does some really cool modern designs. And I decided to knit mine out of a yarn for which I don't have any tags. But it is Pinta. It is a merino silk and ramie yarn. It can be used for socks because the silk and the ramie is quite strong, I think. But I used 3 colors of this fingering weight yarn by Scuderia Fine Yarns. This is the person who's dyeing it, who is Maike. Hi Maike. And I knit myself a sweater. So I did a faded Mai sweater, options for which are actually in the pattern. So you can see there are 3 colors if I stand up. It's a relatively long sweater for my usual sweater knitting, and it is knit at a very, very loose gauge. I would say this is about a 19 stitch gauge or something with a fingering weight yarn, so it is super loose, super see-through, super light, and I love it. I said before that the Mai sweater, it has this really cool sort of detail on the sleeve. And I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, but I actually decided I should, because I kind of, in the end, I thought this is almost a bit boring. Like it's not super fitted, it's not super boxy, it's just kind of, I was worried that it looked kind of plain. I don't know why, but I did. So I decided to go for the sleeve detail that Leni actually suggests. Except I think I knit more of the sleeve before actually starting it, so it should be a little bit further up, but I didn't want the sleeve at my elbow. And what you do is essentially, without giving the pattern away, you knit this strap from the inside. And there's actually a buttonhole, so you can then fasten a button to it and, undo it if you want to. I have done the buttonhole, but so far I've just fastened it with a bit of leftover yarn because I wanted to see how I like this. And if I really love wearing it this way and I feel like I want to be able to change it up, I might add buttons, or I might just leave it like that, or if I realize I don't like it, I can then just remove it. But yeah, I think I really like it, and I think this is a really sweet detail. I really do like the effect that it gives. And yeah, I'm so happy to have this sweater done, you guys. This is a beautiful yarn. It is so luxurious. This is actually my first time wearing it this morning, and it looks kind of crinkled. I don't know why, because I blocked it. But yeah, I really, really like how this has turned out. The sleeves were super fast. I also got myself some more of those tiny needles for the sleeves, so you don't need to do a magic loop. I knit the sweater on 3.5 millimeter needles, and in terms of adjustments to the pattern, I did my own sleeve decreases. Just not because I didn't want to follow hers, just because I'm lazy and wanted to do my own thing. What else did I do? The neckline is supposed to be, I think, the last thing that you knit, but I actually knitted very, very soon after starting the pattern because I wanted to see how this neckline would work out, and it worked out really, really nicely. It's sort of like an applied I-cord, I think. And I love the finish of the sweater. I think it looks really nice, really polished, and yeah, I think I'm going to wear this a lot once it gets a little bit warmer. It's more like a light sort of top for inside as well. Possibly even for work, who knows? This would look really cute, wouldn't it? With like a dress shirt underneath and the collar sticking out. I think that would be really nice. Anyways, that is my Mai sweater, M-A-I sweater. Very happy to have it done and very happy to be wearing it. My next finished object is a pair of socks that I started before Christmas. In fact, I think I started it the night before we left to visit my parents because I thought I deserved some fancy schmancy MCN socks on my feet. And these are Vanilla Latte socks, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. And I knit this out of yarn from Amy, who is Stranded Dye Works. This is in her MCN base, so it's a merino cashmere nylon blend in her Batcave colorway, and this is a one-off, so it has some purple streaks somewhere, but I love it. So I finished my socks. As you can see, the leg is once again relatively long because I like to do that with fancy schmancy yarns, and I do like long socks. And I really like how they came out. I think they're very fun. I did my usual garter stitch heel, which you can do with any short row heel. I always use the Fish Lips Kiss heel and then just essentially just knit the purl rows. So they're done. As usual, I always do 2.25 millimeter needles and 64 stitches. So they're done. Very happy about that. Excuse me. I've got something in my throat. All right. What was I saying? Sorry, I just lost my train of thought completely. I hate it when podcasters do that, and then you're kind of like screaming at the screen and just, it's not that hard, but I forgot. Anyways, they're done. Next up, I also finished a pair of socks which you haven't seen before. And yes, this is about all the man socks. So I've been knitting a lot of man socks, and one of those pairs I decided to cast on for my soon-to-be father-in-law. He loves hand-knit socks. I discovered that last year, and he is so excited about them. He got a pair for Christmas and already kind of ordered some more. So I thought that would be a really nice present to send him a pair of hand-knit socks. And I cast on a yarn from Stash because, yes, I do knit from Stash. I don't only just buy yarn, I actually use it too. This is Lana Grossa Meilenweit in their confetti range. And the colorway number is 2513. I picked these up, this one and a pink ball of the same sort of confetti range at a previously very favorite yarn store of mine in Kempten, which sadly doesn't exist anymore. And aren't these socks so fun? Like, it looked really nice in the ball, which unfortunately I can't show you anymore, but I was just so amazed at how fun these socks knit up. And yes, they are too loose on the blocker because they are man-sized. But this is the sock I have knit too and just ran out of sock blockers. But I just love this colorway. I think it is such a unexpected, fun colorway from Lana Grossa. And I do like the sock yarn, but I don't always love it because sometimes it tends to be a little bit plain. But this one, I really, really like it. I really love the colors. I love the long pattern repeat. It's just a fun colorway. So I knit these mismatched on purpose because I think that's fun. And I couldn't be bothered to match them. So what I try then is to start at completely different parts of the repeat, so they're not just like 2 rows off, but they're actually proper off. Because these are for Kai's dad and he has bigger feet and I didn't want to knit more stitches, I went up in needle size. I went up to 2.5 millimeter needles, US size 1.5, and I just knit some plain vanilla socks with plain vanilla fish lips kiss heels. Very happy with these. They will be blocked and then going into the post to my father-in-law very soon. And I know he will love them. I really enjoy knitting socks for him because he loves them so much. So I'm planning to just kind of keep knitting them throughout the year and then give them to him whenever because I know he appreciates them so much. Yay for knit-worthy people, right? So that is my last FO for this episode. 2 pairs of socks and a sweater. I'm very happy about that. And I feel like I'm missing something, but I don't know what. So maybe there's more FOs and I forgot. I don't know. Anyways, let's move on to some works in progress. And again, there are so many that I haven't shown you yet, and they're all new things, which makes me very, very excited. There are a couple of whips that I'm not going to show you today, one of them being my Love You Baby wrap or shawl, because I am still stuck on Brioche Island and it just never ends. So there's no point in showing you a brioche triangle and like showing you, oh, I've knit 10 more centimeters every week. I think that's just unnecessary. So I'm not going to show you that. Maybe just very, very quickly, I will show you my dark water sweater by Jennifer Steingast. Again, I didn't even know if I was going to show you this at all because I am just knitting on the body of this sweater, but I'll show it to you very, very quickly. So this is the sweater, dark water. It's a beautiful colorwork sweater, but it's also knit in a very light fingering weight yarn. So really you need some patience, which right now I don't have because I'm just thinking about casting on all the things. But I've made maybe 4 inches of progress on the body. So I still got a fair way to do, but I'm chugging along. I think I kind of start working on this honestly because I think I'm going to run out of yarn. So I just need to bite the bullet and either face that fear or order more yarn. But the yarn that I'm using for this, which is a really nice yarn, I really like it, is Isaga, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, in their Highland Wool 2, which is a 100% wool yarn, as it kind of makes sense to be, in the colorway Rhubarb, and the white is called Sand. So that is it, just very, very quickly. Yeah, right now I'm just not feeling it, but I'm sure I will again soon. Next up, very, very excitingly in here, I finally figured out my wedding shawl, you guys. If you have been watching for a while, you will know my dilemma about my wedding cardigan, which turned into a wedding shawl, and the yarn that I was going to use didn't work for me anymore, and then I ordered more yarn, and it was all a bit of a panic. And the new yarn arrived, and I wound it up 10 minutes later, and I started the shawl, and I had planned for this new yarn to go with some existing yarn in my stash. And that was very out there. That may not have worked the way it did, but it worked out perfectly, and I'm so excited I found the perfect wedding shawl combination for my wedding, which is in 2 months. Can you believe it? So let's talk about the yarn first, and then I'll show you the actual shawl. So the pre-existing yarn in my stash, this is a yarn from Pickles in Norway. I picked this up in Oslo in November with my best knitting friend Marion. And I picked this up together with a sort of like Highland wool in the same yarn shade to knit a Elton cardigan, which was going to be my wedding cardigan. And then it didn't feel right anymore, and then when I was justifying not doing that anymore, I also realized that I have like tiny sequins and pearls on my dress, and most likely they would get caught in a super lacy cardigan. So I decided to reuse this yarn for a different project, but this is a silk mohair, and colorway number 161518. And then I saw this, and this is a alpaca silk lace yarn from another one of my favorite dyers. This is from Hedgerow Yarns in the UK, and I don't know what it is about her yarns, but I just love everything that they make. It's a beautiful, beautiful yarn, and I just panic ordered it. It was on sale, you guys. My wedding shawl, like everything just came together perfectly. I got this one of a kind, I think it's a very light lilac colored yarn. It's a lace weight, let's see if it has 600 or 800 meters. 600 meters of 70% baby alpaca, 30% silk in the one of a kind mist colorway. Had she had 2 skeins of it, I would have gotten 2 and held a double, but there was only 1, so I thought I should be able to combine that with this. And they don't look too similar in terms of the color, but I was worried that this was going to be too baby pink, and I was worried that this was going to be too close to the white of my dress. Spoiler alert, my dress is white. So I paired these together, and you guys, I am beyond excited about this. Look! It worked out! So the pattern that I decided to go with, and that was a choice that I kind of had made in my mind for quite a while, is the Shea Lin shawl by Leila Rabe, or Leila Rab, I'm not quite sure where she's from. I got that pattern from a lovely viewer from my wish list years and years ago. I've knitted 3 times now. That was back when I was still living in Würzburg and just had really discovered knitting, so it must have been like 3 years ago. And in my mind, I always kind of had a soft spot for this pattern because it is beautiful. Like, look at it. How stunning is this pattern? This combination between lace and stockinette. It is also incredibly easy to knit. Like, you may or may not believe it, but after knitting this first top triangle here, I have never once again looked at the pattern. And in the way that it's constructed, you can, I think it's written for a certain weight of yarn, but really you can do it with any yarn and just knit as long or as short as you want it to be. So what I'm doing essentially is holding both strands of yarn together. And I originally started with 3.5mm needles, and it was kind of too tense and too constricting, so I actually ripped it out again and started re-knitting it with a 4mm needle. So it's in a very loose gauge and it is just perfect. It's a triangular shawl, and I can't really show it to you because my needles are too short, but this is just one half of it. So you can see I think I'm not super close to finishing it, but I'm not that far off. And what's really surprising to me is I'm not very used to holding, silk mohair with a lace yarn, which a lot of people are doing these days. But I'm just surprised at how, I don't want to say chunky it is, but lace things and mohair things can be super flighty and super light. But this actually has some texture to it, and I really like it. And also, getting married in March, it could be really warm and nice and springy, or it could be freezing. I'm looking outside and there is snow on the ground right now. And I feel like this is the perfect combination, because it's going to be pretty and springy and light if the weather is like that. But it's also warm enough to really give me some warmth and look wintry if it has to. So I'm just so over the moon with this, if you haven't noticed from me waffling on about it, on and on and on. I love this. I've been loving knitting on it. It's been going a lot faster than I thought. Also, I just started digging into my second and last 25-gram ball of the mohair. So I've knit almost the entire shawl so far out of 25 grams of silk mohair lace. That's incredible. So I have no qualms whatsoever about running out of yarn, and oh my gosh. I'm not sure if you can see it on the screen, but this combination of these two shades together just makes it almost iridescent. And it's super fluffy and it's shiny, and I just love it so much. And now I got mohair in my nose. Alright. So that is my Shaylin wedding shawl. I love it. I can't say it anymore. And yeah, very, very, very excited. And also, I've been having a lot of wedding stress these last few weeks. And yes, everyone who said it was going to be stressful, and I said, oh no, it'll be fine. It is so stressful, you guys. It is so stressful. You were so right, I was wrong. But having at least my wedding shawl sorted out is giving me some peace of mind, and more wedding details later, because I'm sure not everyone is interested in that. Also, why are all of my zippers broken? I don't know. So that is that. I have such a pink theme today, like mauvey pink. But when do I not, really? Next up, I have two new cast-ons as well. Let's start with the sock cast-on. Once again, I'm knitting man socks. So I got some yarn out of stash, and this cake is looking horrible. But this is some old self-strapping yarn from Nicole C. Mendes. I did, I think, 2 of her sock collabs in 2017. She's a German self-strapping dyer, so there are not that many German self-strapping dyers out there. And this was her Haunted House colorway, which was for Halloween 2017. So this has been in the stash for a while, and I decided to just cast it on because I really liked that, unlike most of her other colorways, which are very bright and colorful, this one is a little bit more darker. So I decided to cast it on for Kai, and I actually tried some new needles. I once again got some 9-inch circulars, and I got these from, these are the Chiaogu ones? Chiaogu? I'm not quite sure. Because I've tried them before, but I always only tried the Adi ones, the Adi 9-inch ones, and also the Adi ones where you have one needle that is longer than the other. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, but I don't like Adi needles. So I love Chiaogu joints, and that is work much better with my personal style of knitting, which may be different for you. For example, I love Adi needles for shawls, but I just don't love them for like any kind of sock knitting. So I got these and I cast on, and what did I do? I finished a sock. Look at me, all professional. I even put it on a sock blocker. I'm so proud for that. So I thought this may be a good way of knitting for me when I'm on the train, because I do take the train at least every 2 weeks for work trips. And I love magic loop, but especially when you're crammed in there and there's someone right next to you, I always kind of feel constricted in my movements, and I don't want to poke someone's eye out when doing magic loop. And like I said, I think a couple of episodes ago, I discovered these small needles for sleeve knitting, and I was really surprised that I quite liked them. So I just gave them a go with this pair of socks, and I knit a tube on the train. I actually knit all of this on the train, so that worked out. And then last night I added a heel and I added a toe, and the first sock is done. Admittedly, they're kind of short. Kai likes really short socks, but what I was planning to do is add the heel in after the orange stripe. And I was thinking about this orange stripe, but there are 2 different oranges, and then I just did the wrong one. And honestly, I noticed it before I cut it, so I could have just taken the needles out, picked up stitches again, but at that point I was like, screw it. So these are done, or the first one is done, and I really like how it turned out. And actually Kai really likes them as well, because he's not huge on striped socks. But I convinced him that he needed a new challenge in terms of his crazy sock collection. And yeah, quite happy with these. The first one is done. This one I did 68 stitches on my 2.25mm needles, and I just did a plain afterthought heel and some... This is Socks Yeah yarn by Rachel Coopy. This is actually left over from a pair of neon socks that I knit for Kai last year. When I combined this navy with a bright neon green. And yeah, the first one is done. The second one has not yet been casted on. So that is one whip that you haven't seen before. And then next up, this is kind of going into acquisitions as well. I'm making an effort to knit out of stash. And by doing that, I'm buying more yarn. And how does that make sense? Well, this is yarn that I got from my lovely friend from Iceland not earlier in the year, last year. Julia, it's 2019. And this is Plötulopi by Lopi, which is the famous Icelandic yarn company. And I have knit with Letlopi before, but I've never knit with this. And I have been so curious about this. What this is, this is essentially just roving. How can you tell? Because I have already, just by picking it up, separated it from my project. This is, when you spin yarn, you have roving, and then you twist it to give it strength. And then most likely when you're not wanting a singles yarn, which by the way isn't a single ply because it's not plied, you then ply those twisted yarns against each other. What this is just roving, which means it is super, super soft, and you can just pull it apart. See? There we go. And I've heard lots of stories about this yarn, and I was so curious to try it myself. Because Letlopi in general is, a very workhorse and scratchy yarn, and it has a bit of an itch factor, but because this isn't spun, it is so much softer and squishier than the Letlopi. And also the Letlopi is, I think it's made out of 2 strands of this. And therefore it is very thick, whereas this is about sport weight. I think it's about 300 meters per 100 grams. So it's just a really nice yardage. It is incredibly affordable, because you know how much I like to show you affordable yarns as well. And anyway, so I had this in stash as a gift and wanted to knit with it. And I kind of wanted to knit a garment or a huge shawl out of it. So what did I do? To knit out of stash, I got myself some more colors, and now I'm knitting with it. Not sure if that counts as stashing down, but that's how my mind works. So from a German website, there are a couple of them. I got 3 more of these plates. These are 100 grams each. Let's see if this does. I think all colorways are just numbers, so I'm not going to show you. But I had this one in stash. Let's not take it apart. And then I got this more like brownish color to go with it to fade into this one, which of course is a muted pink, because why wouldn't it be? And then I got this one to go in the end. And you guys, this stuff, I just love affordable yarns, and I think that there are not that many podcasts here in Europe or in Germany. Whereas in the US, like, you know all the yarn brands just from watching the podcasts. So I just love discovering these things, and I think these are like €4 per 100 grams. So that's really good, and this is some proper wool. The interesting question, of course, was how is it going to be to knit with this? I was very careful with this, and still I've broken it a couple of times, but I haven't broken it while knitting it. So you do have to be, I don't know, I think there are people who are harder on their yarns when they knit. Knitting with this for me hasn't been a problem. The only problems that I've encountered is when I whip back something, I just wanted to whip it out, and I had a strand of yarn in my hand and my swatch in the other hand. And every time I pick it up, lay it down, I just rip the yarn, but it isn't a big deal because you can just felt it back together, so it's not a huge issue. But what am I actually knitting with it? I'm knitting a giant snake. Can you tell what it is? I have been wanting a sort of oversized, very long cardigan to wear at home, or to wear out as well, but I have a Let Lopi sweater that is super warm, and I've talked about it in my sweater special, and I love wearing it, but it's a sweater, so sometimes you overheat. Like the other day, I was in a phone conference with my boss for 2.5 hours with video, and I just started getting so hot, and it was so uncomfortable. And I thought, it would be great to have a light jacket, because this is, of course, a little bit lighter. And to just have a light, long jacket that it will be super, super warm if you put it on, but you can open it up in the front, and it'll be great. So what did I do? I cast on for a Harvest cardigan by Tin Can Knits. So this snake is actually, you start with knitting a very long garter snake, and then this is going to be the collar that goes around the back of your neck. So I would put it on, but then I will mess up the microphone. But this is where we are right now. This is my second time knitting this pattern. I knit the Harvest sweater by Tin Can Knits before, but I knit it too small, to be honest. It's still in my wardrobe, but I don't wear it because it's too small. So I'm knitting it again, and what I'm planning to do is, I'm not sure if you can tell what I'm doing here. This is the collar, and now I'm just doing the raglan increases, and then eventually I will slip all the the sleeve stitches. I will put them on hold, and then just knit down the body. And the advantage with this pattern, except for that it's free, is that you attach the collar as you go. So this is a great pattern for fading, for color blocking, or if you're worried that you might run out of yarn, because you don't have to go in later and reattach a button band, a collar, or anything like that. So this is where I am with it. I'm most likely not going to really fade. I'm just going to do color blocks. So I'm just going to use this. And then attach this and have like huge color block sections, and I'm telling myself, if this is a really long jacket, it would be really nice. I know that when it comes to actually knitting a ton of just back and forth on the body, I will want to shorten it, but hold me to it, please. Hold me accountable. I want this to be a really long cardigan, and I think if I make it, it's going to be an amazing addition to my wardrobe. So that's where we are with it. It has a bit of a prickle factor just because there are very long hairs in the yarn. I also made a huge mistake because I knit the entire garter stitch section without reading the pattern properly, and I didn't do a provisional cast on. And the provisional cast on is essential because you then need to join it back, and you want that join to be invisible, hence the provisional cast on. So I kind of thought maybe I had just, made a huge mess and just knit all of that for nothing. But it turned out, thankfully, I was able to fudge it because when I had cast on, I didn't read the pattern, but I knew that I was going to have to reattach it somehow. So I cast it on very, very loosely. So I don't even know, I can't even tell where it is anymore. But it worked out really well. Oh yeah, here it is. You can't really see any change in the garter stitch, but you can see on the wrong side where I had to reattach. Maybe you can see, maybe you can't. Anyways, that is my harvest sweater, and I think it's going to be a long-term project. There's a lot of purling. I thought about sticking it, but it will kind of mess up the edge here of my garter button band. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to muddle through it and not rush myself, and it'll be done when it's done. Yeah, so that is that. I will have to reattach the yarn later. And this is a yarn, I can't work this out of my bag because I would constantly break it. But when I have it like sitting as a plate next to me, and you kind of wind off a little bit at a time, and then you can just knit from it and it's fine. So yeah, very excited about that. And I have a feeling if this goes well and if I love the finished outcome, I'm going to stock up on kilos upon kilos of this yarn because I really like it so far. But I will knit first and then decide, and then shop. Hold me to that. So I think that is it in terms of my whips. Like I said, I'm not going to show you my shawl, and I'm not going to show you my what's it called, northeastern knit blanket every week. So that leads us to a huge second section of stash acquisitions, prizes, and such. By the way, how cute is this mug? I got this from my knitting friend, of course, for Christmas. And it's got all the sweaters, and I realize it's kind of Christmassy, but I'm going to use that all year round because that is just amazing. So where do we start? Let's start with cat in the bag bags. Do I have a card? Do I have anything prepared? No, of course not. I had some lovely makers from Singapore get in touch with me, and they are a mother and daughter team. They're in Singapore, as I said, and they're making bags. Their names are Janice and Alice, and they reached out and asked if they could send me some bags to keep, to use as prizes and such. And I said yes, of course. So very, very kindly, they sent me a huge package full of bags. And what I really, really love about what they sent is that they show such a great variety of things, and it was just a really cool combination of things to unpack last night. So I have 3 bags to show you. The first one, like I said, all of these are very different. You will see that in a minute. The first one is this one, which is a sushi bag, and how awesome is that? And look, all of these bags are really smart because it looks just like a handbag, but there's actually kind of a bag inside the bag. So what you can do is you can put the project in here and you can close it, and it's like a proper knitting bag, and you can of course then put a lot more stuff in it as well. And then when you do open it up, you will see that there's actually beautiful lining again on the inside. There's pockets and there's a lot of room in here. So that's one style of their bags which I really think is so cool. And one lucky winner will definitely be getting this bag for the Happy Sweater along, which I think is perfect because you could actually put a sort of fingering weight to lace weight sweater in here easily. And the next bag that they sent me, and on this one you can finally see their labels, so I have something to actually show you guys. This is hard. Podcasting is hard. So it's Cat in the Bag Crafts. And this one is very different, and I really like this one. This one is going to be a hard one to give away because I looked it up, and this is like hand-woven fabric from Japan. And you can't feel it, but it's super soft. And this is a zippered bag with a handle, a zip, obviously, And again, these bags, they are really, really, really nicely made on the inside. So they have pockets, they have these little yarn guides if you're doing color work. They're fully lined, and you can just see that a lot of work goes into these. So this one is most likely going to go away for a giveaway at some point, but I'm keeping it for now. Yeah, but I think I'll be good and give it away. Maybe we'll do like a 4,000 subscriber giveaway sometime soon, if we ever reach that, and we can use that. The third one that they sent, I don't know if they watch my podcast, but they sent exactly what I've been looking for, because I've been in need for more large canvas style sort of sweater bags, because I like to knit sweaters. Big surprise. And look what they sent me. This is a giant sort of canvas bag, and it's embroidered, and it says love to knit. It has a ball of yarn. It has their logo. It has a beautiful strap, and it is huge. And you guys, I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep this one for myself, because this is exactly what I needed. It's got this amazing lining. It's super cute. And again, there's different kinds of pockets. Some of them are, I feel like they're reinforced, so they can hold a lot of stuff. And there are a lot of like tiny pockets, so you can put like your planner in there, and then your pens and scrapbooking things. I don't know. Again, yarn guides, and I just love this. So this is where I'm going to put all of my Lopi yarn immediately as soon as I finish podcasting, because I love it. So Alice and Janice, thank you so much for sending those to us. I will be honest, because I like to be very, very open. I got these bags for free, but I never promise to say anything on the podcast. All you get from me are my honest opinions and my honest excitement, or not if I'm not excited. And so that is that. So that is it for Cat in the Bag crafts. They also, by the way, sent this beautiful piece of quilting, and I'm not sure if this would go really, really well. I have some ideas for this, but I haven't decided yet. So you may see it again. And I got a super cute note in the Asian, I assume from Singapore, note paper that they have so much of. I used to spend a lot of time in Southeast Asia, and I love these cutesy things. Anyways, so that is one thing that arrived. Where should we go on? Let's talk about another thing that is kind of to do with the podcast. So you may or may not know that there's a UK-based dyer that she only does updates very, very rarely, because I assume she's busy. She has a job, she has kids and such. But Ali is a laughing yaffle, and every time she does a shop update, I need to buy stuff from her. And I reached out to Ali before Christmas and asked if she would be able or willing to do some custom orders for me. And she's great. So she said, yeah, of course, what would you like? And I started sending her photos of color inspiration, and we kind of worked on this for about 4 to 6 weeks, because I said to her I would like 2 self-striping colorways. One, just because, and I would like to have a happy rainbow for the podcast. So let's talk about the non-podcast one first. This beautiful yarn, I sent her an inspiration photo, or a couple with these really sort of unusual color combinations of like orange, mustard, pink, and yellow. And she made me this colorway out of it, which is actually a sparkly one. And it was just so much fun to talk to her about like what kind of stripes and in what order, and like obviously I can't take any of the credit, but it kind of felt like we were designing a yarn, and it was really, really cool. And then I just thought, back then I was hosting the Happy Sweater along, and I was kind of thinking about, I would really like a colorway that somehow reminds me of the podcast. And I decided to go for a really funky, sort of poppy rainbow. And this is what she came up with on the first try, and it is amazing. Again, I sent her a couple of sort of inspiration photos, and this is amazing. She actually let me name the colorway, so I named it Oh Happy Day, which was really hard. It's really hard naming colorways. And this, again, it's just, how amazing is this? This is definitely my favorite. She just nailed it with these colors. They're really sort of like funky rainbow colors, not your everyday rainbow. They're very bright. I love that the yellow is sort of more like a mustard yellow rather than a super bright yellow. And I just love it. And Ellie said, because I just wanted these for me and wanted to have some fun. But she said she would make a couple more of these rainbow ones and pop them in her shop. So I think if you are interested, and you, of course, you don't have to be. I'm not trying to sell you anything here. I know that people will ask. Just maybe follow her on Instagram, and I'm sure she will update you as soon as she pops these into her shop. I think she was going to do like something like 6 or 8 more of these. And if you don't find them, if you want some, of course, you can always ask her or make me get in touch with her. In all honesty, again, this one, I was planning to pay for both of these, and then she gave me this one as a gift, which is super generous, again. But again, she didn't force me to say anything nice or anything. I'm just trying to be super, super transparent. And oh my gosh, I love these so much, because you know how much I love self-strapping yarn. And there are not that many self-strapping yarn dyes in Europe, so again, incredibly happy with these. One of these I think is going to be my Valentine's Day cast-on, because that's going to happen. I actually did my Valentine's Day cast-on with a self-striping sock yarn from Laughing Yaffle about 2 years ago, I think. And I still wear these socks a ton. So I think either of those would be good for a Valentine's Day cast-on. So that's another thing that rolled into my mailbox. Not quite literally. And yeah, it doesn't end there, because I'm the yarn pig. What can you do? I found out through a French Instagram friend of mine about a new company, or new to me company, but I think they're actually very new, that have also started a website in Germany, and they sell a lot of affordable sort of yarns. Kind of reminded me of Drops, or I don't know what else is like comparable, maybe King Cole. I went on the website immediately just because I'm always intrigued by these things, and they seem to cater a lot to crocheters. So there's a ton of cotton yarn there, which I wasn't really interested in because I don't crochet. But I just wanted to try some of their yarn because, as you know, I'm always on the quest for new yarn, and especially new sort of affordable yarn that you can maybe use for color work, or if you're, a new sweater knitter and I don't always want to spend a ton of money. I spend a ton of money on yarn as it is. And, I earn it, it's fine, but sometimes it's nice to not spend a ton. So what I got is, I got a sweater's quantity of this yarn, which I just wanted to try so badly. This is called Nature, and it is a 100% organic wool. It is certified, so it's like, the GOTS, I think. So certification is Global Organic Textile Standards. So this is a organically made yarn, and I love these things. I am trying to be more conscious. So whenever I see things like that, that makes me very, very happy. This is a fingering weight yarn. I should probably tell you the name of the page. It's called Hobby. And yeah, you can see everything there. So it's a fingering weight yarn. It is 100% wool. It says designed in Scandinavia, made with love in Asia. It's 230 meters per 50 grams, so it's a light fingering, and this yarn I think was like €2 a ball or something on sale. So that's really good. I don't know how they do that, but this is a proper yarn. It's not plasticky. It's not like the sheep haven't been treated unfairly or anything. This is a great yarn. So I got myself a sweater quantity because I decided that this year is going to be the year of cables. Last year was the year of color work. The year before was the year of brioche. This year I want to do some more cabling. I don't know if I've ever knit a cable garment, but I bought this to knit the Samel sweater or cardigan by Joji Locatelli. So I'm going to start easy. The Samel sweater has only like a little bit of cabling at the sides, and then it also has a all over texture pattern, which I think is just a knit pearl texture. But this would go really well in my wardrobe. I want some more cardigans. I want some more cable things that I can wear with anything, that I can maybe even wear to work with a smart shirt. So I got these. And then I also got 2 more balls of yarn because Kai keeps bugging me. He's essentially stolen all of my mittens because he doesn't have any of his own. So he's just taking mine all the time, and 2 pairs he's already ruined because he has bigger hands than mine, and then he just felts them, and oh my gosh. So I have been pushing him to pick some colors so I can finally knit some mittens for him and have my mittens back, or rescue them from him. So he picked these 2 colors, and this is also from the same company. This is just called Simple Wool. So this is a superwash. I didn't really realize when I bought it, to be honest. I love the other stuff much more, but it's just a gray and a black sort of DK weight, so I can knit him some Selby mittens out of it. Yeah, the last thing I have, and I know it's a lot. I know. I feel bad, and then I tell myself not to feel bad because it's my business, and I work full time, and I can kind of decide, but I do feel bad. But anyways, I got some amazing yarn on sale, and I just could not leave it there. I'm such a sucker for sales, and they're just yarns. Most of the yarns that I buy, they are sort of more affordable, sort of color work yarns, but there are some yarns that are just always on my wish list, and when I see them on sale, I'm just going to get them. So one of these yarns is Cambria by the Fiber Co. This is a yarn from the UK. I actually saw this when I went to Vienna in January 2018. I had a skein of this in my hand, and I didn't buy it. And I hated myself for not buying it back then, but I just didn't want to spend so much money, and you know how it is. You all know how it is. And it's forever, ever has since been on my mind. And then the other day I saw that this, as well as the natural color of this yarn in the DK weight version, was apparently going out of stock, and they were having it for 50% off. And I just threw my yarn diet aside, and I got myself a sweaters quantity of this DK weight yarn because it's amazing, and I've been wanting it forever, and I don't need to justify myself. So this is, it's called a lustrous blend of brown Masham wool, merino, and mohair. So I just think that's really, really cool. And this is the Cowberry colorway, which if you look on Ravelry, there are some amazing projects knit out of this yarn. And I'm not sure if they stopped dyeing this color altogether or if it's just temporarily leaving, but it sounded kind of like maybe this color doesn't even get made anymore. So yeah, I'm a sucker for yarn, I admit it, and I am so happy about it. I am so happy with this. And yeah, oh my gosh. Again, cabled sweater. Wouldn't this be an amazing cabled chuck sweater by Andy Sutherland? See where I'm going with this? I'm starting a new obsession. But yeah, that is actually finally and really it in terms of my acquisitions. And I'm sorry if you didn't like that. I should have said in advance that if you don't want to see the whole thing, you should have turned off the camera. But I mean, you're all capable of clicking and using YouTube, so I'm sure it's fine. And I'm just freaking myself out too much over this. So let's move on. Let's have some coffee. So after all this yarn and all that talking, which is leaving me kind of hoarse in my voice, all that's left to talk about is what's been happening in terms of life. So if you're not interested in that, I have full understanding for that. Like, that's fine. I will just see you next week. And if you do want to stick around and listen to me ramble on about life stuff, feel free to do that too. So it's been 2 weeks since I last recorded, and yeah, why has it been 2 weeks? Last weekend it was super busy. My mom was actually in town for Friday and Saturday, so we spent the days together, did some shopping, some wedding planning, oh my gosh. And then it was suddenly Sunday, and one thing that I like to do, besides knitting, is actually go running. And I've been wanting so badly to go running again. I got myself some winter running gear and have been wanting to go running. But I can't go during the week because it is dark before I start work and it is dark after I start work, and I'm not going to go running in the dark. So I can only do it on weekends. And then the same kind of goes for podcasts. And in the winter, the space in which it is light enough to either run or podcast is just so small that last weekend I decided I just couldn't do both. So I decided to go for a run, which was amazing. It felt so good. I can't wait to go again tomorrow. And then I just decided to just take it slow. Instead of recording a podcast rushed and possibly with bad lighting, just give it a week and it'll be fine. So that's why it's been 2 weeks. In terms of work, they have been very, very busy. They've been very long weeks, but good weeks nonetheless. I spent this week traveling as well, which always means that at least I take a very late train back to Munich from Frankfurt and I get a lot of uninterrupted knitting time. Also, what's really been draining my energy is the fact that we are organizing the wedding, while both working full time. So I mentioned this earlier. I always kind of convinced myself that you don't need to super stress out about your wedding. And I thought I was so smart, and it kind of turns out it is just stressful. And even with the best intentions of keeping it small, keeping it simple, sometimes that doesn't work. So I had a bit of a wedding crisis, including lying awake at night and thinking this wedding would never ever happen, but turns out it will be happening, and turns out it'll be fine, and I was just freaking out. But that's to say, I find it really hard, and maybe some of you have experienced the same. I find it really hard to keep the wedding stuff simple because it seems like the expectations and the standards are just so high, and like I never really thought of getting married about like having this big dream wedding. Like I'm not that person. I didn't even know if I was going to do the whole white dress and cake and stuff thing. It turns out I am, but I'm finding it very, very hard to stick to my principles here. And, like we had a big decoration crisis. And I just wanted to keep it simple. And everyone was telling me, no, you need to do this and you need to do that. And you need to pick these candles and these vases and the flowers have to be coordinated with this and that. And completely freaked me out. And I was at this point where like, oh my gosh, yes, I need to do all that and I don't have the time and how am I going to do it? And keep it simple, stupid. We worked it all out. But yeah, I found it really interesting because I tend to be quite pragmatic. I like to, I spent a lot of time thinking about my wedding shawl because that is something that I'm really, really passionate about. But there are some aspects like candles where I'm not super passionate about it and I don't really have the need or wish to spend weekends of planning and driving and looking at things. But I think I learned that I can make these choices and it'll be fine. So I'm very happy about that. But it's just been a lot of things to kind of have on your plate as well. And all these things, they're really small things. Like, what's so hard about, booking another hotel room or changing the bookings for the 10th time? It's not super hard. It doesn't take a lot of energy, but those things just add up. So I've been kind of having a bit of a wedding crisis, but I think it's normal. I think we've figured it all out relatively well and it'll be just fine. But yeah, that's an insight into my wedding mind, which, oh my gosh, it's happening so soon. I can't believe it. But that also means that we could be going away very soon, and that's really exciting. And we will be actually married, which I guess is a bonus. I've also been just crossing things off that I don't want. Like, I'm not going to throw a bouquet. That's it. We may not be doing a first dance. Like, it was really funny. Kai's friend was like, "So you're just throwing out anything traditional?" And I was like, "Yeah, kind of." But anyways, enough wedding talk for today. I think that's what's been happening in terms of that. And as you can see, I've been crafting my hideout as well. I've been super, super inspired to knit all the things, to of course buy all the things, which when am I not inspired to do that? But yeah, I've just had a lot of creativity in my mind as well. I've been planning projects and things, and now I'm starting to think like, what can I accomplish before going away on our honeymoon, and what yarn do I want to take on honeymoon? What are good projects to take on a sort of summer vacation, which we'll be doing? So it's all happening. It's all happening very fast. But I think it'll be really, really good. Also, thankfully, we have a couple of days off in 2.5 weeks' time. So we'll have, I think, 3 days off plus the weekend to go away and just kind of breathe and relax and also sort out some things. And then I think I haven't talked about it. Have I talked about it? I'm not sure. But in 4 weeks, we're actually going to Paris for 3 days. So that was Kai's Christmas gift for me, and I am beyond excited. I think part of me would have not dared to plan a trip like that before the wedding. But at the same time, I'm really grateful that he did, because it's going to force us to just go away and have fun and leave all the stress and stuff behind. So that'll be really, really good. And of course, I'm super excited. Yeah, what else? It is Saturday. It is still snowing outside. Kai is playing tennis inside. And I don't think we have very much planned, which is amazing. I'm so excited to just be at home, because obviously I've been staying at a hotel during the week as well. Last weekend was super fun, but very exhausting. We spent one day in the city, and I love in doses. I'm not a huge shopping person, but every now and then I do love, being out and about and looking at things and getting some stuff and stuff. But it has been very exhausting. So I'm very happy to now just stay at home, relaxed, and yeah, do some knitting, play with my yarn balls. So I think that is it for this week. I will be back with you next weekend. I should be back, and then after that I may be taking a week break as well, but we'll just see how it goes. I'm trying to stick to my word of the year, which is breathe. And for me, breathing is sort of, a way of reminding myself that it's okay. Take it one step at a time, take it one day at a time, be a little bit more gentle to me. And I picked this word with work in mind, but knowing that probably with a wedding coming up, it would also be a good word, and that's turning out to be exactly the case. So yeah, that is that. I'm playing with my balls. Oh my gosh, I'm such a 5-year-old. Thank you so much for watching this podcast. I feel like it was very all over the place. I feel like, yeah, maybe you can just hear that I'm a little bit tired and my stream of consciousness is just flowing a bit more than it usually is. But I hope that you enjoyed the show. I hope that you maybe come back next week. And until then, thank you so much for watching. Happy knitting, and I will see you soon. Bye!